Hello and welcome to this video. On this video, I'm going to be reviewing the new single that's just been put out by Roger Waters, which is his reworking of the classic track Money. Now, this is going to be coming out eventually on his reworking of Dark Side of the Moon. Now, the fact that Roger Waters has decided to re-release under his own name Dark Side of the Moon is quite a controversial thing. But on top of that, Roger Waters has become a very divisive figure with his comments about capitalism and also his comments against Israel and their political system and all that sort of thing. So I thought rather than me just talking about it, I have pulled onto this discussion a very valuable member of my Patreon. So Doron, would you like to say hello?
Hey,
And so
hello there.
Doran is not only a big fan of the channel and a great musician that works in his own bands and stuff, knows a ton about music, but also can you just tell us where you're based?
I'm based in Israel. I'm based in Israel, just outside of Tel Aviv, in a small suburban town.
So I thought to keep things really fair, it would be excellent to bring in Doran to have a chat from the sort of Israeli perspective of Roger Waters, but you're not just going to be doing that. So first off, Doran, what did you think of this new single when you had a listen?
Okay, so I've listened to it quite a lot, quite extensively, for about maybe a dozen times, which is I think more than what the other reviewers, you know, would listen to. And I think before I tell you what I think about it, I'd like to take you to a little scene from The Wall. There's this scene when he's a kid and the teacher catches him writing in class, and he calls him out, and he takes his note and he reads the poem to the class to humiliate him in some way. And the poem is part of the song Money, right? It's Get Back, the first verse,
Yeah.
basically. And when I listen to the song today, it's very difficult to just separate the song from the history of the song, to think about it as a song that was written by a kid who didn't have money and probably had a view about what money is and what it could do and how much he wants it. And then at the age of 29, sort of bringing it to the band, and playing it with the band and singing it. And during the album, it's Dave Gilmour who sings
Mm.
it, and his guitar is all over the place, and he's shouting. It's an angry song, it's an angry lyrics. I'm sure part of the lyrics were written probably after he was a kid, probably just to get it all working out with the song. And then 50 years pass, and he's a grumpy old geezer, and he's funny. He's sort of a nice guy. He's very eloquent, and he's intelligent, and he has views now, right? He has views, not just social views, and not just capitalist versus different methods, but he's seen it from the side. He's now bringing an angle where he does have money. He did it all. He won. He won the jackpot. But what bothered me about the song is that the way he presents it sort of distances him from the problem. So so let's talk about the song. It's a very long song. It's a 7.5 minute song, which is 1 minute longer than the original. The original had, a BPM of about 125, and starts very slow at about 105. It starts slow, and then as the song progresses, it sort of picks up and it becomes faster a little bit. So it wasn't recorded with a click, I think, and it's there's no guitar solo, no sax solo. It's a very different approach, very different arrangement. He sort of took what Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen did in the early 90s, and sort of brought that spoken, gravelly tone and he's preaching. He's basically preaching. And the most important part about the song is the addition of two verses. It's basically a new poem inside the song
And
where
this
he
almost
describes,
replaces Dave Gilmour's guitar solo,
yeah,
doesn't it? So
yeah, yeah,
the whole Dave Gilmour thing is erased sort
just
of twice. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
twice the poke. So yeah, not only he sings it, it's a different arrangement. There's no solo, no guitars, not even a hint of the work that was done during the original production, which was, by the way, I mean, the original production was very produced. I'm sure that they didn't record it live as a band.
Mm.
Even by that time in 73, they recorded it in tracks separately. They had some issues. I think in 72, during the Obscured by Clouds period, they sort of changed. You know, this was the old Pink Floyd, sort of managed by the whole band, and you felt a lot of Gilmour in it and a lot of Rick Wright and Mason. And then from 73 on, you know, Roger sort of takes the band to a different direction. And it's very nice that for me as a kid, I was listening to The Wall before I knew Dark Side of the Moon. When I was in elementary school, I saw the movie. And then when I realized that the poem that the teacher was holding was Dark Side of the Moon, this was really mind-blowing to me. You know, I was a kid, I was writing songs, you know, it's very, very strong. However, the arrangement is very lacking. I mean, there's a problem with the arrangement. It's very mellow. It doesn't go anywhere. You have those bits and bytes of orchestration arrangements, which are really nice, but they never pick up. They sort of build this tension, and it really builds up nicely as the poem in the third and fourth verse enter. But it wears you out. It wears you out. It's very difficult to listen all the way through. For the fifth or sixth time, you don't want to hear the last 2 minutes. And you know that poem that has this ring with the boxers and the devil's sort of sinister, you know, watching from behind, sort of controlling everything. I understand what he's doing. I understand where he's getting at. It's all about what he knows about money today and how it's corrupting the entire world and everything is the devil. It's not him anymore. He's not in the story anymore as an active member. He's now sort of retired from wealth, and now he looks at it in a very sort of external point of view. I think this is a little pretentious, and
Yeah,
I think
it's a bit
that
like he is able to sing and criticize the wealth for a very
exactly,
specific political point of view, because he's now extremely wealthy. And I think when you got the original album, the album was much more about angst, wasn't it, and depression. And when you would listen to the original Dark Side of the Moon, you don't really feel a point of view. You feel that someone's raging against the world because they're raging against the world. It's not necessarily whether they're right or wrong. It's just that
yeah,
everything is on
it's
top of them, you
a
know, and
sort of, yeah,
it's that type of angst. And now,
which
obviously,
I
Roger
like.
is a very secure, rich person, and I think it's really interesting what you said about the production. He obviously wants to put the emphasis onto the lyrics because the music does not really feature at all. So on the original, all that arrangement with these sort of looped cash registers and also the pace of it, you felt like you'd gone into a sort of cosmopolitan whirlwind of a world where rich people are out doing all these things and going here and going there, and you felt you could see the sort of spinning roulette wheels in casinos while you were listening to it. And now we have this really dour, plodding version of it where the music doesn't really seem to have any relation to the subject matter beyond just being something pleasant for him to then, you know, put these
Bring
lyrics
out
on and expand on it. And I thought what was really interesting with this is the emphasis he's putting on the lyrics, right? And so you get the feeling with this album and with this track that what Roger Waters is trying to do is make the point that Pink Floyd is him, that he was the architect behind these
he
albums.
says it bluntly. He
Yeah.
says it. He says it, and you know what?
The thing that's going on here that's interesting is that by focusing on the lyrics, it takes away the instrumental input of the band, because even in a band where the sole songwriter is running everything, right? So even when they're doing that, the band members contribute so much. And another example of this would be the band ELO, where Jeff Lynne is acknowledged to have been the top songwriter, and quite recently he re-recorded all the songs himself so that he could, as he said, do it his way. And which sort of negates the incredible input of all the guys in those bands, like Bev Bevan's incredible groove, Kelly Grove's incredible vocal harmonies, the orchestral arrangement, the strings arrangement, and so I've seen this play before, to just try and grab ownership of something which was originally a band, and it's all.
ELO is but ELO was different. ELO changed very not extensively, but changed throughout the early 70s and late 70s. The band sort of changed. Like Pink Floyd was a unit. It's like Paul McCartney now going and recording the entire, I don't know, Abbey Road album. He does do it live. It's okay. I mean, the idea of doing a song or redoing it 50 years later is good. It's not a bad idea. It just has to be done very well. It's the same with movies, right? The movies that get rebooted like 40, 50 years later, think about Dune or those kind of movies where it could be better, and it definitely deserves the new view, but it has to be done in a way which justifies it. I think
that's very interesting, that is, because the thing is that yes, certain artists have gone back and revisited their career. In many ways, Jethro Tull did the reworking and the sort of follow-up
Thick as a Brick,
which by all accounts was nowhere near the original. It always seems like a bad idea to me. But then, as I said that, I was going to say Ian Anderson isn't trying to put his stamp on it. But then I think he has always done that as well. I do think this is a play to try and, he doesn't own the name. Pink Floyd's not his, and he's trying to say, look, you do know Pink Floyd is mine. And I disagree a little bit about the fact that they were a unit, because for me, that first album is Syd Barrett. It's Syd Barrett's album. And then after Syd Barrett goes, they bring Dave Gilmour in, and then it's this slow evolution to try and find their own voice. So you get this incredible experimental period. But I always thought they just trying stuff out. And then with Dark Side of the Moon, as you say, Roger Waters takes over the helm, and they have another success. But it's very hard to negate the Syd Barrett influence.
No, of course, I love the Syd Barrett era.
That's what I mean. It's not cut and dried. This isn't. No,
you're right. You're right.
Just the four members.
I take it back.
Yeah, so it's really good, because I'm really interested in doing the review like this, because I'm also listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking, there's many bands that have done that, and it's and they haven't done it just to make the political statement that they own, that it's their band. It could be the case.
I think the stance I want to make is, first of all, that it's okay to do it. It's legit.
Oh, of course, artists can do whatever they want, and I would never.
People say, why did he do it? I don't like lampooning it like that. I think it's perfectly fine. He wants to do it. Yeah, why not? He wants to give the lyrics more attention and bring down the whole music thing. Okay, he could have changed the arrangement even further. I would just throw out the total, or even the 7/8 is really what makes the song run. What I love about the 7/8 is that it's a swingy style, so it's like an extra beat over a 6. It's not a missing beat over an 8, and it gives you that, it's like at the edge all the time, and you like it. Here, I think it's okay. It doesn't do anything that it's 7/8. I don't feel the 7/8 as much as I did with the first version, and sort of, and again, the orchestration and everything is so mellowed down. Even that little Hammond at the back, there's like a little Nick Cave style red right hand Hammond in the middle. I really liked it. I wished he would take it to the next level. This is not a prog song in any way. It doesn't even have the English aesthetic anymore that you had with Dark Side of the Moon. It was so English. Here it's not English anymore, and it's very international. Even the artists who take part in the production are very international. The singers, the Hammond player, the guitarist. So let's just say a word about, this, the most interesting thing about this song and this remake and redo is that it's Roger Waters, and that he is not an artist who can separate the artistic aesthetics from his moral aesthetics anymore. He sort of combined them, where we like it to stay separated. I don't like to think about what artists in centuries of music that I listen to have done in their personal life, and it doesn't make me not listen to them. I even listened to Wagner, and he was like allegedly part of the sort of Nazi or way of thinking in the late 19th century. You definitely don't think about other artists like that. Consider Michael Jackson. Nobody, is thinking about not listening to Michael Jackson
Well,
today because
there is a contingent out there that said you should do that, and I do know people
I
that
don't know.
well, they can't seem to take it. But then if you you mentioned someone like Leadbelly, they won't do it to Leadbelly. I mean,
Of
Leadbelly,
course not, because
murderer.
it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, and then you can come right up to date, and like Jay-Z was a crack drug dealer before he became a rapper, and all these
I
things.
think drugs is very different from other sort of crimes. Sometimes we see it a little differently because of the situation. But if an artist did something like sexual harassment at
Yeah.
a certain point in his life, would you just like put a line and everything before that is okay, everything around it after that is not okay? Would you go and listen to them in an album, but not go to a concert? Or, I mean,
So that if you're making the point that because Roger Waters has obviously committed no crimes whatsoever, and I've done a video
no, absolutely not.
very, very supportive of his freedom to do what he wants, and really
Yeah.
worried about certain contingencies, certain
No, of course, of course. I was just talking about
people try to
the
shut down
moral
artists, however, upsetting the sort of,
community.
yeah, because really it is an individual against authority, and he's
Yeah, which I
railing
like.
against that, and then the authorities are coming out saying we don't like this, we don't want it, and I find that really worrying. And I'm quite willing to tolerate any awful opinion, because I think that's
Exactly.
more important than
Exactly.
shutting down artists who might be saying a new idea and a new opinion which is unpalatable, but we need to hear. So we now move on to your perspective. You're Jewish, you're in Israel. So what I'm very interested in is what actually in Israel is the opinion of Roger Waters. Is there like the mass hatred, and or do people just, they're still Pink Floyd fans, and they, it's like they're not really that fussed? Because what we get outside Israel is this sort of, it's everything but what Israeli people think. We get every other opinion. So I really wanted to get you on to talk for it from that point of view. And of course,
So
this is just your point of view, isn't it? But hopefully you can enlighten it.
yeah, maybe me and my wife and my friends, and I
Yeah.
think we are huge Pink Floyd fans. We are like the parents who give, my kids were listening to Pink Floyd before they were born, and ever since. We are huge Pink Floyd fans. Pink Floyd has a huge following in Israel, like huge, amazing. There's nobody in Israel who would say that Pink Floyd is not a good band, or they suck. I mean, you won't get that. It's a full consensus about the quality and the importance of Pink Floyd as a band in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. However, since that BDS thing started, first of all, it's important to note that Roger Waters was in Israel. He did perform in Israel. I went to see Roger Waters in 2006, was it? And he performed in front of huge, like, I don't know, it was like 100,000 people. We had to walk 8 hours. My wife was pregnant. It was one of the most important things I ever experienced, and it was great. And I think from 2006 and on, he became more vocal about, condemning, about BDS, about the most horrific thing that he's done, which is like a crime, is try to prevent other artists from coming to perform here. And people are resenting him for that, and resenting him for the boycott, not for his opinions. I mean, he's perfectly okay with his opinions. He's just putting on the table, hey guys, there's a problem here. You've got the Palestinians, you've got the settlements, you've got the territories. There's a problem. There's a problem with human rights. We all acknowledge there's a problem. I mean, I don't want to come and say he's not an asshole. He's not a bad dude. He's perfectly entitled to what he thinks, and he's a great artist, and I have nothing against him. However, he cannot be boycotting or trying to prevent other artists from performing. He cannot say that he understands the whole picture, and it's very black and white. It's very binary, and there's a wrong side and a right side. He's standing like on his ivory tower with his sort of moral mindset, that cannot be moved. And I don't think he's listening to really the problems that we are facing as a country, as a nation, as a religion. I mean, he certainly sees it very, very I don't know, it's like, this is wrong, you have to correct it, and until you correct it, I'm not talking to you. And this is an opinion I'm very, very I'm difficult with that. I cannot accept it.
I entirely agree. And I think he's trying to treat Israel in the same way that artists treated South Africa. He's trying to make, then when artists were boycotting South Africa and not playing there,
Yeah.
and he's trying to make this argument that there's an apartheid in Israel. And the trouble is, it's a completely different situation. But for me, I think if he went to Israel, if he walked down the streets and he hugged his fans, and shook their hands and had the love, because that's the thing that's the thing I always hate, is that people can have different opinions, and he can have a problem with certain things, Israel's, authorities, government, all that.
I have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? We have a problem with the government. We have a problem with the authority. We are fighting his battle. I mean,
And that's the shame. Without him going there, you
why
don't
would you
feel that,
undermine
do you?
us?
That would be far more powerful, wouldn't it, as a message to the world,
Exactly.
to go, here I am in Israel, here are my fans, this is what I'm saying. A lot of people here are agreeing with me, and the government would be going, oh my God, the idea that the bands boycotting is going to make that effect. It's obvious that this is a profound thing that you've said here. So I'm really glad we did this video, because I think you're totally right. This idea of boycotting anywhere, if on the ground the people are not necessarily in agreement with the government, and I'm pretty sure from outside your government is, it seems that way. So,
it's going the other way. It's
yeah.
going the other way, man. This is like the wrong way to do it. And
yeah.
you don't see Bob Dylan not coming. You didn't see Leonard Cohen not coming. There are other bands who are coming. I mean, some bands have a problem coming because of the security situation. We had a lot of canceling because of, we've got a war going on, every year there's like a few weeks of war, and it's like it becomes a routine. You have these rockets, and you have the attacks and the terrorist attacks, and we have to sort of deal with it, and we don't like it, and we don't like people suffering. We don't like what's going on in Gaza. We don't like what's going on in the territories. I don't want, it doesn't matter even what side you're on politically. You don't like it. This is not the aesthetic that we were brought up. This is not beautiful, right? This is the way you said it.
Totally right.
So get a grip. Get a grip.
Yeah, and the thing is that all this goes over the heads of people, but on the ground are actual people, and people are in most cases are highly reasonable and just want to get on with life, and they just want to get on. It's like I'm sure you could sit down with a Palestinian person, chat about Pink Floyd. Of course you would. We live in a civilized, Western democracy where that's the values of all of us. It's such a shame. But I think the big problem with Roger Waters is, and this is my personal opinion on it, is I think it's very difficult to be that left wing and not come across as anti-Semitic, because the tropes that are in there that I
So
see. That I mean, I'm everyone thinks I'm quite right wing, and I'm not. I'm actually centre left, right? I
yeah, me
really want.
too.
I
Me
I
too.
want to look after poor people. I want to look after poor people. But when you start to get to these ideas of identity, and at the moment there's this big anti-capitalism. It's like, oh, there's these big fat rich fat cats at the top, and
You
they
know what the
control all
problem
the
is?
money. Now, where does that idea come from? Where is that originate from? You can't
So
talk like that without pointing to certain ideas that have been there for a long time about Jewish people, and it's I find that really not. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
yeah, yeah. You know what I really think about this period? I think that, throughout history, people had opinions, and we were always on the spectrum. There's a grayscale. At a certain point, no matter where you are on the scale, somebody will come and will draw the line that everything above this threshold is black and everything below this threshold is white. And suddenly, with all your grayscale nuances, and suddenly you're either black or white. And the line, where you draw the line, and the fact that there is a line, these are two just crazy problems. I think they are very related to what's going on with social networks and the
Yeah.
algorithms. And this is crazy. It's a different topic. But I would like to say two things. First of all, from my notes, because it's important about the song. Except for these two verses that he adds, and he adds another line at the end, which is like a final phrase saying, "How much you given away? Huh? None." Okay, so like I think it was important for him to put that thing that sort of distances away, thinking that now we have to give it away. It brings me to your point about the anti-capitalist, approach, which is very strong now. Just give it all away. How much are you giving it away? And that's his take on the money thing today. And the other thing is that looking at the verses and looking at the whole lyrics, I try to find, something anti-Semitic about the lyrics, whether, it's about money and thinking, Roger, today, money and Judaism makes very, good sense these days. I didn't find it. There is absolutely no hint or anything that is related to
No, that's the point I'm trying to make.
anti-Semitic.
I don't think he's anti-Semitic. I think he's very, very left wing. And the trouble is as soon as the left wing has a tendency to sort of have this utopian thinking, and there's power hierarchies.
Exactly.
You got the proletariat, you got bourgeoisie at the top, and that bourgeoisie is represented in a certain way. And the trouble is that representation historically has come from the depiction of Jewish people as being controlling the world and controlling money. Because I don't believe anyone does control the world. And the thing is that Roger Waters himself is a very, very rich man, and I don't want to say, look at that guy, he's really rich, and then he's going on about this, because I'm sure he's giving far more money to charity than I am, because rich people always do, usually to sort their tax out.
Or to clean
Like you
their
said, that's the
conscience.
nuance, isn't it? That's the gray area between this,
But it's a psychological thing too. It's also, of course, it has some conscience cleansing effect on the people, right? But
well,
uh,
the other thing with I think with the sort of socialist ideas, is old school socialist ideas, it's not just the money, it's the control and the power, and how the controlling classes control us through culture. So everything has to be culturally constructed, and they control that culture. And there's no big ideas beyond that idea of power. So it places power as being the main, driver of history, which
it's very
I have
hard,
a real I have a problem with that. It's not that I don't want to look after poor people. I actually
of
think,
course,
I think they're not at the moment. The left wing aren't representing poor people anyway, and the situation is getting worse, and
right?
I don't think that the stance that he's got now, for me, doesn't echo as strongly as the stance on Dark Side of the Moon. So he's trying to make this point, but
But he's making it. lesser.
too
Yeah,
specific. It's too pointy fingered. It's too, these are the people to blame and they've got to be punished. You know, we need to have a revolution and tear them down. And who are they going to put in place? Him, you know,
yeah.
obviously, you know,
No,
Emperor Waters. I just don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get that.
eventually he says we're all Faustians, we're all doing things that we are not considering the consequences. I mean, this is, he sort of comes like a prophet, and the growly voice, which makes it sound like the devil, or like an old guy who knows everything, serves the song. And overall, you know, it's a good song. It's not a bad idea. I have no problem with Roger Waters' music. I did stop listening to him like mid '80s, for a lot
Mm.
of reasons, specifically because it wasn't the music I liked anymore, but not because of his personality. I don't like mixing personalities and moral aesthetics with the musical aesthetics of
Mm.
people, although it really drives me crazy to understand where is the line between, if somebody thinks that something is beautiful, can he think about something else which is ugly as beautiful? And where is that limit between moral and artistic aesthetic? I think this is a whole different
But that's
topic,
what
and
artists do. You see, this is what I think is very
they
important.
separate. Yeah.
Yeah, the artists will go out and a true artist will go, this is beautiful. I know no one else sees it as being beautiful, but if you look at the world in this way, then this is a new idea of what beauty is. And the reason why we need to do that is because history is changing. Now there's this sort of, again, left-wing idea that there's a revolution, it's going around a circle, you know, and all that. It's not, you know, that's another big inheritance, you know, from sort of left-wing thinking that I don't agree. You know, we've got real problems now that need to be sorted with
Yeah.
innovative thinking, and we need artists to actually be able to see new ways of seeing the world. That I think is, it's almost like 50% of human activity has to be able to allow that, because I think the world is made up of beauty and it's made up of facts, truths, and we need to be able to establish truths as accurate as we possibly can, which means that you're willing to alter your opinion fundamentally in the
You should.
in the face of empirical evidence or rational thinking. But
Yeah.
the appreciation of beauty is also really equal, because when you turn around and say something's wrong, fundamentally you're arguing from saying, even if you're religious and you think it comes from God, or you're just an atheist and you think it comes from human beings, it's still the idea of what's beautiful and what's not beautiful. And I think that's so important. So I really defend his him doing this. I would never shut him down. I think it's a good idea. I think there's a whole mix of reasons why he's doing it, and it's going to be very interesting when that whole album comes out. One of the biggest albums in the world, as whether it's perceived as being an add-on to the original album. It's like it's like a sort of special feature,
Yeah.
or whether you feel that he's tried to erase. I'm sure he's not going to say that, because he wouldn't.
It's
But
it's it's not going to be.
there's a feeling underneath that there's a bit of a play of ownership, of going,
Yeah.
you see
Yeah,
that.
he needed that. He needed that for himself.
Yeah.
But it's not musically, it's not what I would imagine. Even the Easy Star All Stars dub version of the Dark Side of the Moon at times was interesting, and it had this kind of, okay, now we can go to a club and dance
Yeah.
to these songs, in a sort of a reggae format. But this is like a lot of things in the last 20 years or so are sort of, if somebody else would have done this album version, a lot of people would maybe do it the same way, sort of very, very melancholy, Muzak sort of
Oh,
style.
I hate it. It's like you get an
Yeah,
advert come on, and there's some kick-ass song from the 80s, which is really up. And then you get this modern,
like a
mournful
Depeche Mode
piano
song,
ballad version
right?
of it over and over again. The first time they did it, it was fine, I think with Tears for
Yeah,
Fears songs, whatever it was. But at first, well, that's quite nice. But now it's the biggest cliche going. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh
it's
my God, what?
everywhere.
Don't you
Every
understand? And you listen to the lyrics sometimes when you take a song that's really kicking and you listen to the lyrics when it's slowed down, And I think you have that a little bit with
Sounds
this song, and it
ridiculous.
doesn't quite make sense. He's just
Yeah,
saying these random words because it lacks the impetus. I mean, these are the musical problems I had with it. I think I really do want to like it. I'm not the biggest Pink Floyd fan, but I am a big Dark Side of the Moon fan. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. And doing the channel, I've really realized how monumental Pink Floyd are. And this is a progressive rock band that's there right at the beginning, and then they keep punching all the way through. Even when everyone else is dying, like ELP's dying away, they come out with a wall.
yeah,
And in the 80s when there's no prog, they come out with like the Division Bell or whatever it's called, Momentary Lapse of Reason. Those albums, and they're massive, massive albums.
right.
So they it's almost, you can, people say they're not prog, but if you actually plot them, you actually see what prog is. And I got to be honest, if you listen to a New Marillion album, that would have a touch of this sort of producing dully. I mean, I just don't get it. I just want people dressed as wizards playing in 7/8. That's what I want.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Prague. I know I argue for new stuff, but I just really, I just want capes
Picking mushrooms
and
in the woods.
pyramids. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want a
and
jester on a chessboard with a
yeah.
raven on his shoulder, and then I'm happy.
You said it. Actually, for
You can
that
tell I'm winding
reason,
up now, can't you, Doron? We're getting to the ends. I'm
yeah, for that
bringing in
reason,
this silly
actually,
humor.
for
You've done a
that
brilliant
reason,
job. I've sat here and I've thought, wow, you have really brought perspective to this that I think no one else has, and I think we've done a cracking video. So
yeah,
I'm going to go off and make a thumbnail for it and come up with a snappy title, and I think it will come out in a couple of days. Thanks for
sure.
helping out, and hopefully you'll have a little bit of YouTube fame now. And anybody's watching this, Doron will be. What? How will you appear in the comments? What will your name be?
Yeah. Usually it's pronounced Doron, but you can
Oh, is it
pronounce it
Doron? So
any
you
way
never
you want.
told me this, you see. You never
Yeah,
told me this.
because
So
I don't
you
make a big fuss.
politely sat there and let me pronounce it. So what is it again?
Duran. It's like
Doron.
the
John
you accent
McLaughlin
the
brought a
end.
video out yesterday, and
So what?
John McLaughlin brought this video out for PRS, and he goes, "Hi, this is John McLaughlin," and that's how you pronounce it. I'm not that far off,
Yeah,
It wouldn't be
McLaughlin.
me if I didn't spend the whole
McLaughlin.
video, pronouncing your name wrong, would it, basically?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got 1 minute 30. Say bye-bye to all
Okay.
the people, and all you people out there, like this video, subscribe, and if you want to become a patron, like Doron, I can't even say it, then you could be doing this too. And what's my Patreon like? Do you enjoy being there?
What, you mean your channel?
Yeah, no, my Patreon. You're a patron, aren't you? I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to get people.
Yeah, but it sucks. It sucks. No new
Oh, you
material.
right. That's it.
Everything is bad. It's not interesting. You come out like once every 2 weeks with something boring. No,
Oh, you're
it's
letting them all know the facts now.
no, it's
And
amazing.
it's like
It's
that
amazing.
weekly photo of my cat, I think is worth the money.
It's brilliant. If you had me as a PR, you would get double
You are
the
now. That's why I've got you on.
yeah.
Bye bye, everybody. See you soon. How do I stop recording?